Very good. Once again, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming together and joining in the study of Torah, sharing not only the words that are written before us, but perhaps even more importantly, the words that pour forth from our heart as we engage with one another in grappling with our text, in the story that's before us, and in the story that is within us. So let us go ahead. I'd like to invite everyone to unmute, and together we can recite our blessing, and then we'll begin reading from the very start of the book of Numbers. Together we recite our blessing. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. Thank you, God, for this opportunity of joining together in words, deeds, and relationships of Torah. So we are at the very beginning of the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 1. I'll share with you the opening verses, and then I'll invite others to have an opportunity to read as well. And then I will share with you a little bit of focus study, and then we'll open it up for everyone's thoughts and reflections about it. The book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 1. On the first day of the second month, in the second year, following the exodus from the land of Egypt, Adonai spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, saying, "Take a census of the whole Israelite community by the clans of its ancestral houses, listing the names, every male head by head. You and Aaron shall record them by their groups, from the age of 20 years up, all those in Israel who are able to bear arms. Associated with you shall be a man from each tribe, each one the head of his ancestral house." We're now at verse 5, and Dave, would you like to read a little bit, beginning at verse 5?
I'll be glad to. These are the names of the men who shall assist you. From Reuben, Elizur, and Shadur. From Simeon, Shelomiel, son of Zuri Shaddai. From Judah, Nashon and Aminadab. From Issachar, Nathanael, son of Zuar. From Zebulun, Eliab, son of Helon. From the sons of Joseph, from Ephraim, Elishama, son of Amihud. From Manasseh, Gamaliel, son of Pedazar. From Benjamin, Abidan, son of Gideoni. From Dan, Ahizer, son of Amishadai. From Asher, Pagiel, son of Ochran. From Gad, Elisaph, son of Deuel. From Naphtali, Ahira, son of Enan. Those are the elected of the assembly, the chieftains of their ancestral tribes. They are the heads of the contingents of Israel.
Dave, thank you so much. Thank you. That was wonderful. Now we're on verse 17. Sherry, would you like to read a little bit at verse 17?
No, thank you. I'll just
Okay.
pass and I'll let other people read. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. So we're at verse 17. Jim and Peggy, would you like to read a little bit beginning there?
Okay, thank you. So Moses and Aaron took those men who were designated by name, and on the first day of the second month, they convoked the whole community who were registered by the clans, of their ancestral houses, the names of those aged 20 years and over being listed head by head, as Adonai had commanded Moses. So he recorded them in the wilderness of Sinai. They totaled as follows: the descendants of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house as listed by name, head by head, all males aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Reuben. Okay, go ahead.
Of the descendants of Simeon, the registration of clans of their ancestral house, their enrollment is listed by name, head by head, all males aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Simeon, 59,300. Of the descendants of Gad, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Gad. Of the descendants of Judah, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Judah, 74,600. Of the descendants of Issachar, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Issachar, 54,400. Of the descendants of Zebulun, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Zebulun, 57,400.
Thank you, Peggy and Jim, so much. We're now on verse 32. Margot, would you like to read a little bit starting there?
Sure. Of the descendants of Joseph, of the descendants of Ephraim, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Ephraim were 40,500. Of the descendants of Manasseh, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Manasseh were 32,200. Of the descendants of Benjamin, the registration of clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 and over, and all were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Benjamin were 35,400 men. Of the descendants of Dan, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Dan were 62,700 men. Of descendants of Asher, the registration of the clan of their ancestral house is listed by name, aged 20 years and over, and all were able to bear arms. Those enrolled in the tribe of Asher were 41,500. Of the descendants of Naphtali, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house as listed by name, aged 20 and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Naphtali were 53,400 men.
Thank you so much, Margot. Let me invite Robin, if you'd like to read starting at verse 44. And you'll need to unmute, Robin. Thank you.
Those are the enrollments recorded by Moses and Aaron and by the chieftains of Israel, who were 12 in number, one representative of each ancestral house. All the Israelite males aged 20 years and over enrolled by ancestral houses, all those in Israel who were able to bear arms, all who were enrolled came to 603,550. The Levites, however, were not recorded among them by their ancestral tribe. For Adonai had spoken to Moses, saying, "Do not on any account enroll the tribe of Levi or take a census of them with the Israelites. You shall put the Levites in charge of the tabernacle of the pact, all its furnishings, and everything that pertains to it. They shall carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings, and they shall tend it, and they shall camp around the tabernacle. When the tabernacle is to set out, the Levites shall take it down, And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. Any outsider who encroaches shall be put to death. The Israelites shall encamp troop by troop, each man with his division, and each under his standard. The Levites, however, shall camp around the tabernacle of the pact, that wrath may not strike the Israelite community. The Levites shall stand guard around the tabernacle of the pact. The Israelites did accordingly, just as Adonai had commanded Moses, so they did.
Thank you so much, Robin. Cheryl, would you like to read beginning at the start of chapter 2?
Thank you, Rabbi. Adonai spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, the Israelites shall camp, each man with his standard, under the banners of their ancestral house. They shall camp around the tent of the meeting at a distance. Camped on the front or east side, the standard of the division of Judah, troop by troop. Chieftain of the Judites, Nashon, son of Amminadab, his troop is enrolled, 74,600. Camping next to it, the tribe of Issachar, chieftain of the Isharites, Nathaniel, son of Zuar. His troop is enrolled, 54,400. The tribe of Zebulun, chieftain of the Zebulunites, Eliab, son of Helon. His troop is enrolled, 57,400. The total enrolled in the division of Judah, 186,400 for all troops. These shall march first. On the south, the standard of the division of Reuben, troop by troop. Chieftain of the Reubenites, Elazar, son of Shadur. His troop is enrolled, 46,500. Camping next to it, the tribe of Simeon. Chieftain of the Simeonites, Shelumiel, son of Zurishaddai. His troop is enrolled, 59,300. And the tribe of Gad. Chieftain of the Gadites, Eliasaph, son of Reuel. His troop is enrolled, 45,650. The total enrolled in the division of Reuben, 151,450 for all troops. These shall march second. Then midway between the divisions, the tent of the meeting, the divisions of the Levites shall move. As they camp, so shall they march, each in position by their standards.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Let me invite Steve. Would you like to read beginning at verse 18 of chapter 2?
Yes, thank you. On the west, the standard of the division of Ephraim, troop by troop. Chieftain of the Ephraimites, Elishama, son of Ammihud. His troop, as enrolled, 40,500. Next to it, the tribe of Manasseh. Chieftain of the Manassites, Gamliel, son of Pedazur. His troop, as enrolled, 32,200. And the tribe of Benjamin, chieftain of the Benjaminites, Abidan, son of Gideoni, his troop, as enrolled, 35,400. The total enrolled in the division of Ephraim, 108,100 for all troops. These shall march third. On the north, the standard of the division of Dan, troop by troop. Chieftain of the Danites, Ahiezer, son of Ammishaddai. His troop, as enrolled, 62,700. Camping next to it, the tribe of Ashur, chieftain of their Ashurites, Pagiel, son of Bokran. His troop, as enrolled, 41,500. And the tribe of Naphtali, chieftain of the Naphtalites, Ahira, son of Anan. His troop, as enrolled, 53,400. The total enrolled in the division of Dan, 157,600. These shall march last by their standards. Those are the enrollments of the Israelites by ancestral houses. The total enrolled in the divisions for all troops, 603,550. The Levites, however, were not recorded among the Israelites as the Eternal had commanded Moses. The Israelites did accordingly, just as the Eternal had commanded Moses. So they camped by their standards, and so they marched, each man with his clan according to his ancestral house.
Thank you so much, Steve. Richard, would you like to read beginning at the start of chapter 3?
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. This is the line of Aaron and Moses at the time that the Lord spoke with Moses on Mount Sinai. These were the names of Aaron's son: Nadab, the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These were the names of Aaron's sons, the anointed priests who were ordained for priesthood. But Nadab and Abihu died by the will of the Lord when they offered alien fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai, and they left no sons. So it was Eleazar and Ithamar who served as priests in the lifetime of their father Aaron. The Lord said to Moses, saying, "Advance the tribe of Levi and place them in attendance upon Aaron the priest to serve him. They shall perform duties for him and for the whole community before the tent of meeting, doing the work of the tabernacle. They shall take charge of all the furnishings of the tent of meeting, a duty on behalf of the Israelites, doing the work of the tabernacle. You shall assign the Levites to Aaron and to his sons. They are formally assigned to him from among the Israelites. And you shall make Aaron and his sons responsible for observing their priestly duties, and any outsider who encroaches shall be put to death."
Richard, thank you. Let me thank you so much. Let me invite Mark, would you like to read a little bit beginning at verse 11 of chapter 3?
Yes, thank you. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "I hereby take the Levites from among the Israelites of all the firstborn, the first issue of the womb among the Israelites. The Levites shall be mine, for every firstborn is mine. At the time that I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, I consecrated every firstborn in Israel, man and beast, to myself, to be mine, Adonai's." Adonai spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, "Record the Levites by ancestral house and by clan. Record every male among them from the age of 1 month up." So Moses recorded them at the command of Adonai as he was bidden. These were the sons of Levi by name: Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. These are the name of the sons of Gershon by clan: Libni and Shimei. The sons of Kohath by clan: Amram and Izhar, Hebron, and Uziel. The sons of Merari by clan: Mahili and Mushi. These were the clans of the Levites within their ancestral houses. To Gershon belonged the clan of the Libnites and the clan of Shimeites. These were the clans of the Gershonites. The recorded entries of all their males from age of 1 month up as recorded came to 7,500. The clans of the Gershonites were to camp behind the tabernacle to the west. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the Gershonites was Eliasaph, son of Lael. The duties of the Gershonites in the tent of meeting comprised the tabernacle, the tent, its coverings, and the screen for the entrance of the tent of meeting, the hangings of the enclosure, the screen for the entrance of the enclosure which surrounds the tabernacle, the cords thereof, and the altar. All the service connected with these.
Thank you, Mark, so much. Jay, would you like to read a little bit beginning at verse 27 of chapter 3?
Certainly. To Kohath belonged the clan of the Amorites, the clan of the Israelites, the clan of the Hebronites, and the clan of the Uzzielites. Those were the clans of the Kohathites. All the listed males from the age of 1 month up came to 8,600 according to the duties of the sanctuary. The clans of the Kohathites were to camp along the south side of the tabernacle. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the Kohathite clans was Elizaphan, son of Uziel. Their duties comprised the ark, the table, the lampstand, the altars, and the sacred utensils that were used with them, and the screen, all the service connected with these. The head chieftain of the Levites was Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, in charge of those attending to the duties of the sanctuary. To Merari belonged the clan of the Mahlites and the clan of the Mushites. Those were the clans of Merari. The recorded entries of all their males from the age of 1 month up came to 6,200. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the clans of Murari was Zerel, son of Abihail. They were to camp along the north side of the tabernacle. The assigned duties of the Merarites comprised the planks of the tabernacle, its bars, posts, and sockets, and all its furnishings, all the service connected with these, also the posts around the enclosures and their sockets, pegs, and cords.
Thank you so much, Jay. Paul, would you like to read beginning at verse 38?
Thank you, Rabbi. Those who encamped before the tabernacle to the front, before the tent of the meeting to the east, were Moses and Aaron and his sons, guardians of the charge of the sanctuary, for the charge of the children of Israel. Any alien who approaches shall die. All the countings of the Levites, which Moses and Aaron counted by the word of Hashem, according to their families, every male from 1 month of age and up, were 22,000. Hashem said to Moses, count every firstborn male of the children of Israel from 1 month of age and up, and take a census of their names. You shall take the Levites for me, I, Hashem, in place of every firstborn of the children of Israel, and the livestock of the Levites in place of every firstborn of the animals of the children of Israel. Moses counted, as Hashem had commanded him, every firstborn of the children of Israel, every firstborn male according to the number of their names, from 1 month of age and up, according to their numbers, was 22,273.
Thank you, Paul. Ruth, would you like to read a little bit, beginning at verse 44?
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites in place of all the male firstborn among the Israelite people, and the cattle of the Levites in place of their cattle, and the Levites shall be mine, the Eternal's. And as the redemption price of the 273 Israelite male firstborn, over and above the number of the Levites, take 5 shekels per head. Take this by the sanctuary weight, 20 gerahs to the shekel, and give the money to Aaron and his sons as the redemption price for those who are in excess. So Moses took the redemption money from those over and above the ones redeemed by the Levites. He took the money from the male firstborn of the Israelites, 1,365 sanctuary shekels. And Moses gave the redemption money to Aaron and his sons at the Eternal's bidding, as the Eternal had commanded Moses.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Carol, would you like to read a little bit at the very start of chapter 4?
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you.
The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, take a separate census of the Kohathites among the Levites by the clans of their ancestral house, from the age of 30 years up to the age of 50. All who are subject to service to perform tasks for the tent of meeting. This is the responsibility of the Kohathites in the tent of meeting, the most sacred objects. At the breaking of camp, Aaron and his sons shall go in and take down the screening curtain and cover the ark of the pact with it. They shall lay a covering of dolphin skin over it and spread a cloth of pure blue on top. They shall put its poles in place. Over the table of display, they shall spread a blue cloth. They shall place upon it the bowls, the ladles, the jars, the libation jugs, and the regular bread shall rest upon it. They shall spread over these a crimson cloth, which they shall cover with a covering of dolphin skin, and they shall put the poles in place. Do you want me to continue or?
Yes, just 2 more verses would be lovely.
Okay. Then they shall take a blue cloth and cover the lampstand for lighting with its lamps, its tongs, its fire pans, as well as the oil vessels that are used in its service. They shall put it and all its furnishings into a covering of dolphin skin, which they shall then place on a carrying frame.
Thank you so much. Justin, are you interested in reading this evening at verse 11?
Rabbi, it'd be a little hard for me to do that. I'm studying the text, but it's hard to go on video.
That's fine. Thank you very much. How about Joan? Would you be interested in reading at verse 11?
Thank you, Rabbi. Next, they shall spread a blue cloth over the altar of gold and cover it with a covering of dolphin skin. And they shall put its poles in place. They shall take all the service vessels with which the service of the sanctuary is performed, put them into a blue cloth, and cover them with a covering of dolphin skin, which they shall now place on a carrying frame. They shall remove the ashes from the copper altar and spread a purple cloth over it. Upon it, they shall place all the vessels that are used in the service, the fire pans, the flesh hooks, the scrapers, and the basins, all the vessels of the altar. And over it, they shall spread a covering of dolphin skin, and they shall put its poles in place. Should I continue?
Please, it'd be lovely.
Oh. Okay. When Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sacred objects and all the furnishings of the sacred objects at the breaking of the camp, only then shall the Kohathites come and lift them, so that they do not come in contact with the sacred objects and die. These things in the tent of meeting shall be the portage of the Kohathites. Responsibility shall rest with the Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, for the lighting oil, the aromatic incense, the regular meal offering, and the anointing oil, responsibility for the whole tabernacle and for everything consecrated that is in it or in its vessels. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Do not let the group of Kohathites, clans, be cut off from the Levites. Do not do this with them, that they may live and not die when they approach the most sacred objects. Let Aaron and his sons go in and assign each of them to the duties and to his portage. But let not the Kohathites go inside and witness this dismantling of the sanctuary, lest they die."
Thank you very much, everyone. That's our entire Torah portion for the week. Since we're beginning a new book in Torah, I thought it would be helpful to step back just a moment and look at two different aspects of reading Torah. One is different ways to read Torah generally, and then in particular, placing the book of Numbers within the context of all of Torah. So there are different ways to read Torah. One way to read it is as an interesting artifact, a relic from a completely different time. And when we read it that way, we generally read it with a sense of detachment, of a sense of removal from the drama that's taking place. Another way we could read it is with a sense of not detachment, but a sense of involvement, that somehow we are implicated in the story, that we are somehow in the story itself. And yet a third way to read it would be that it's not so much that we are in the story, but that the story is in us, and that we're reading a text about our own internal dynamics. And that is generally the way in which Kabbalah tends to read this material, that it is describing some kind of dynamic that's describing the universe, God's self, and dynamics within us as well. And then to set the book of Numbers within the context, I want to continue with a sense of how Kabbalah itself reads much of this material, and that is through a lens of yearning and desire. We begin, of course, with the book of Genesis, and the notion of Genesis in terms of desire is that the world that we know comes into existence out of a yearning on God's part to want to be in relationship. And so we come into existence, all of creation comes into existence in order to have a relationship with a God that is yearning for that, a desire for relationship. And then in the book of Exodus, we begin to have this relationship between God and an entire people. And the way in which desire and yearning can be disclosed and seen within the book of Exodus has to do with Mount Sinai. That what the revelation occurs at Mount Sinai can either be seen as a kind of coercive imposition from a hierarchical authority on how to live and how to behave, or it can be seen as the universe opening itself up, revealing itself up in its innermost sense to human beings, and seeking to have a relationship with human beings based upon what is innermost to the universe or to God. And then we get to the book of Leviticus. And this year, I suggested that one way of reading the book of Leviticus is to view it as a book of love, that it is a book reminding us of the rigors and discipline involved in being in love with another. And so now we get to the book of Numbers. The book of Numbers is extraordinary because so far, the primary narrative characters have either been God, patriarchs, matriarchs, Moses, Pharaoh, and finally, and the Levites in the book of Leviticus. And then we get to book of Numbers, and the primary subject, the primary protagonist, if you will, in the book of Numbers is going to be the people of Israel themselves. They are the ones who now are going to begin speaking. They are going to be assuming a greater role in this articulation. And is it going to be an articulation of fear? Is it going to be an articulation of anxiety? Is it going to be a language of love? Well, that's what we're going to explore, beginning with this portion. Part of the clue I want to suggest is in the very beginning of our Torah portion. So let's look at number 1 on our study sheet. And this is from a midrash from Bamidbar Rabbah. And the midrash goes like this. When God revealed God's self on Mount Sinai, 22,000 angels descended with God, and they were all arrayed under separate flags, as it is said, marked out by flags from among myriads, from Song of Songs. When Israel saw them arrayed under separate flags, they began to long for flags. God said to them, how you long to be ranged under flags. As you live, I shall fulfill your desire. God immediately informed Israel by telling Moses, go arrange them under flags as they have desired. So this midrash is picking up on this notion that we began with about all the people were arrayed under banners, under flags. And the midrash is exploring, well, what's the nature of these flags? And so it has this image that what happened at Revelation at Mount Sinai was that God appeared. God was accompanied by all these angels, and all these angels had flags. And the people of Israel looked at that and they said, look, we want to be like the angels as well. We want to have flags as well. We want to have that kind of a relationship with God where we are celebrating and honoring God with flags. But notice here the proof text that the Midrash brings in for this notion about flags. It comes from the Song of Songs. Of all the books in the Jewish Bible, there is no book that is more full of longing, desire, eroticism than the Song of Songs. The Midrash seems to be wanting us to associate with this moment of the opening up of the book of Numbers with a sense of desire, longing, perhaps even eroticism among the Israelites to be in relationship with God. And the word desire is used several times in the Midrash as well. So we could begin to think about these banners of being banners of desire, and they carry with them that a nuance of being embraced, of cloaks of a rendezvous, of trysts, of embrace and intimacy. So look at here at our painting that we have at the top of our page by the Israeli artist Yoram Ra'anan called Tribal Tents. Here he quite beautifully tries to convey this notion of all the tribes arrayed in their tents with their tribal banners flying high. And here's what Yoram Ra'anan, his own commentary on his painting, he says, "The people were seized by a desire to be like the angels arrayed under banners." So our artist too is picking up on this notion that's being conveyed by the Midrash of the people being filled with desire, a longing to be in a love relationship with God. If you look at number 2, we're going to see some more Midrash, and we're going to see that it too continues to pick up on the Song of Songs as conveying some of the feelings that is with the people of Israel at this moment. So this is also from Midrash Bamidbar Rabbah. Each with its standard under the banners of their ancestral house. There is an allusion to this in "Who is this that looks forth as the dawn, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, terrible as an army with banners? Holy and grand was Israel beneath their banners. All the nations looked at them with rapt attention and wonder. These nations said to them, 'Return, return, O Shulamite. Cling to us, come to us, and we will make you governors, generals, commanders, lieutenants, commanders in chief. Return, and we will look upon you.'" Look upon you means appoint you to power. Again, here is the Midrash, which is using as proof text verses from Song of Songs, the great love poem that's in the Jewish Bible. But here it's neither the Israelites nor God who's speaking words of love. The words now are coming from the nations of the world, and they are expressing kind of a counter seduction. They are trying to lure Israel away from this relationship with God. They're trying to lure Israel to their ways, in a sense, to domesticate Israel's fierce independence and offer promises of, "We'll give you power, we'll make you generals, we'll make you commanders, you'll be like us. You'll be like us, the rest of the world. Give up this path, give up that lover, and come be with us." So the Midrash here is picking up on this strong pull. The world, on one hand, is trying to pull Israel towards their way of life. And then the first Midrash is expressing the kind of love and seduction and allure that Israel is experiencing in their relationship with God. So this is the tremendous emotion in which this book of Numbers is opening up with, according to this bit of Midrash. So what is exactly this? What exactly is this relationship with God supposed to be like? Well, we look at number 3, some additional Midrash. "And Adonai spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai." And that's our opening verse from this week's portion. And then the Midrash goes on. "Anyone who does not throw themselves open to all, like a wilderness, cannot acquire wisdom and Torah." So the Midrash here is telling us something about Bamidbar, the wilderness itself. The Midrash seems to be saying, we are not just in a wilderness, we are to be a wilderness. We are to be a wilderness. We are to be open, we are to be humble, and this is what will bring us into a sense of wisdom and Torah. And so if to be a wilderness then means to begin to explore that wilderness. That's what this journey now is going to be about. It's not going to be so much about exploring this bit of geography that we can look at on a map and see the distance between Egypt and the land of Canaan. No, this bit of vista is within us, according to this bit of Midrash. And that's what we are to be exploring. When I was studying this week and getting ready for our time together, I recalled a quote from Menachem Mendel of Kutz, one of the great early and mid 19th century Hasidic rabbis. And he said this, he said, "People are accustomed to look at the heavens and to wonder what happens there. It would be better if they would look within themselves to see what happens there." And of course, that is the orientation of especially the early Hasidic movement, which is to kind of reverse our gaze and not to spend so much time looking up at the cosmos outside of us, but to look at the cosmos that dwells within us. And that seems to be kind of the theme that we're fleshing out of this bit of Midrashim here, which is that we are the wilderness. We are this is where we're supposed to explore. And it's out of a desire to have a relationship of love and intimacy with God. If you have the study sheet, you can turn over and you'll see number 4, which is from a very long poem by the great poet Rilke, his sonnets to Orpheus. And if you remember the myth about Orpheus is in love with Eurydice, and Eurydice dies, go down to Hades, and Orpheus goes after her. Okay. And Rilke writes this: "Will transformation, oh, be inspired for the flame in which a thing disappears and bursts into something else. The spirit of recreation which masters this earthly form loves most the pivoting point where you are no longer yourself. One who pours oneself out like a stream is acknowledged at last by knowledge, and she leads him enchanted through the harmonious country that finishes often with starting and with ending begins." Rilke is describing, I think, this great journey where we lose ourselves. We become something other than ourselves. And once we open ourselves up, that's when knowledge comes and guides us through this enchanted and harmonious country. So I'd like to conclude with a saying that we find within Jewish tradition, which is in number 5 here, Ein midbar ele dibur, which can be translated as wilderness is nothing but utterance. It's from Midrash. Here the Midrash is playing with the word for wilderness, midbar, and is associating it with the word dibur, which means speaking or utterance. And Israel's initiation into this wilderness that we are to explore is associated with speech. This wandering, this exploration is associated with speech. And we note that there are a number of times when speech has been very important to new beginnings. We have the notion, especially within Kabbalah, that the world was created through 10 utterances. And those are the 10 times in the story of creation when God says, God said, let there be, and something came into existence. That happens 10 times. And so within Kabbalah, we have this notion that speech, divine speech, brings new life into the world. And the same thing happens at Mount Sinai. The word that's used for what happened at Mount Sinai is not commandments. It doesn't say these were 10 commandments. The Hebrew in Exodus is 10 utterances, 10 word things. That's what happened at Mount Sinai. There were 10 utterances. And this time, it wasn't just to create the world. Now it was to share that world and the secrets of creation with the people of Israel so that they could begin on their task, which is, now it's up to you. I've made this. I'm sharing this secret with you, the secret of creation. Now it's up to you to begin to use this secret of speech, of utterance, in order to create the world and to recreate yourself. So now Israel launches, as we opened up the book of Numbers, with great yearning and a great stumbling, if you will, into speech, which is designed to give birth to a refined recreation of the self. So with that, I'd love to open it up and hear what you saw in this week's Torah portion, what provoked you, what caught your interest. If you'd like to raise your hand, I'd love to call on you and have you share. Okay. Dave, go ahead, Dave, and then Paul.
Okay, there we go. We do a little numerology in this parsha today.
Okay.
I was looking at all the numbers when the census was taken, and there all seem to be even numbers, usually to the nearest 100 or something like that, except in chapter 3, verse 33. All the firstborn males as listed by name, recorded from age of 1 month up, came to 22,273. Number one, that's a pretty exact number. Number two, that is in mathematics, that's kind of a special number because that is a prime number, meaning that number can only be divided evenly by itself and the number one. And furthermore, if you look at the digits in that number, each one of those digits by themselves is a prime number.
Oh.
So there, now you know something about numerology.
Thank you, Dave. Would you like to say something more about it? What do you think that means that there are those prime numbers and there's that unique number there?
I can't say what the meaning is. I mean,
okay.
Like I say, it's an exact number compared to any of the other numbers that are used in the sentence. So that's another way that distinguishes itself. So I don't know. What do you have a take on it, Rabbi?
No, I'm lovely. It's lovely to learn from you, Dave. Would never have thought of those things unless you had pointed them out. I'm so grateful to you. That's fascinating. Thank you. And then let me ask Paul.
Okay, my question is really, I have to explain a little bit of background because it's a very basic question to me. You had three groups of Jewish people who read the Torah. And so unfortunately, I belong to that first group because of my early training. And it's only when I came to the sessions you had in Long Beach and now that I'm starting to see the other second and third group. But I'm having a hard time with this Bamidbar stuff because when they start reading out this census stuff, I don't see that when they talk about the flags, that they're counting these people, like how many of those people are carrying cellos, or violins. It's a military. To me, it's a military strength, survival, and it's a very good example of what's going on currently now in Israel to bring up the reserves to the Gaza border. I see that as the first, in that first group of people we talked about, and when I'm trying to understand, especially since I'm enjoying this group so much, how to get into that second and third group, so that I don't see the shields and the spears, that I see the cellos, that I see the beautiful parts of things better. considering that the Song of Songs came afterwards, I'm looking back at this is a basic count, and what is it for? And so I see a very military. And so how do I move from that to all these other great thinkers?
Well, first of all, what you made me think about is the role of the Levites in all of this, because the Levites were the musicians, they were the singers. And so they brought that level of, that was their instrument for connecting people with God, was through music and voice and instrumentation. So that's what you got me thinking about. And then others, yes, others here are probably carrying swords and spears. And if it's interesting now, if you're willing to kind of accept for playful purposes this notion that the wilderness was not merely a bit of geography that they are walking through, but that the wilderness also represents an inner landscape as well. It's interesting to think about what kinds of instruments and tools, or maybe even weapons, do we carry with us in that inner journey to help us deal with the dark places within us, in order to help things to grow within us. So I'm intrigued, your comments intrigue me to think about all those things. So thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Anna, did you have something you'd like to say?
Well, when you have schools or when you have camps or groups of people, you often have banners or flags, if a flagpole is possible, just so you can say, hey, kids, you head that way and this is your group and that's your group. A banner and a flag does not always mean war. In my personal experience, it doesn't. In your first point one, in desire in the wilderness, God revealed God's self on Mount Sinai. 22,000 angels descended with God, and they were all arrayed under separate flags, as it is said, marked out by flags from among myriads. And the Israelites saw these flags and wanted and began to long for them. Flags are very beautiful. I mean, they respond to the movement of the air, they flow, they're colorful. And not unlike if you tie a little silk scarf on the end of a violin bow.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Anna. Richard?
Yes, one thing about the prime numbers, I wonder, Dave, if you've ever read Oliver Sacks's story about two young men who recite prime numbers to one another.
No, I haven't read that.
And they go after it, one after the other, and by the time they're done, everybody in the room is crying because it's so beautiful. And about the flags, I've always thought of this scene as there's all these flags of all these different clans, all armed to the teeth. But there's only one Shekinah. There's only one wind, one breath that can make them united. And I've always thought that was the symbolism of the flags. And then I wondered why, the census was done of young men, young boys, of old enough to hold a gun. But the Levites, it's from 1 year up or 1 month up, and we're not going to count them all. We'll count the numbers of the firstborn because we got to get how much money we're going to give to Aaron and the priest. But who are these Levites? And what do they do? And why don't we have their exact number? And is that a good thing, or are they a secret police? I don't know, but that struck me in here.
Wow, that's very rich. Thank you. Let me call on Steve and then Carol.
Yeah, I looked it up on Google and it says exaggerated numbers. Many modern biblical commentators, and they quote Baruch Levine, said the number 600,000 is exaggerated. It's meant to express great number of Israelites in the wilderness. And the 600,000 is based on the fact that they use a sexagesmal system, which has a base of 60, as was common in ancient Mesopotamia. another commentator, William Albright, said the numbers anachronistic. And he says it's probably the number comes from all of the time adding up, not just at that particular time. The thing that ticked me off at the very beginning, I know the Grand Army and Napoleon only had 100,000. So if they had 600,000, it'd be 6 times bigger than Napoleon's army. And how could they sustain that in the desert with all of the supplies and everything else? A third interpretation is the word thousand should be used as a troop or contingent. And it's actually a mistranslation of the word. So that's all I have to say about that.
So Steve, you bring to the table these very sensible, practical, scientific approaches to these numbers. Let me bring to the table another way of understanding numbers, which is if you've ever been to a great celebratory event, or perhaps a protest demonstration of some kind that you're a part of, if it feels powerful, if it feels celebratory, sometimes you can say, there were 10,000 of us, there were 100,000 of us, and you don't want to be told by some statistician that, well, we blocked it out by grid, and actually there are only 1,500 of you. No, there were 10,000 of us there. That's the feeling. So there's a feeling element.
Right,
here.
right. How many people were on the mall?
Well. Okay, so let me call on Carol.
Thank you, Rabbi. There was 3 different things that stood out to me this evening. First of all, I really got caught up in what was at the altar in terms of color, and in terms of, I guess I never noticed before that, at least parenthetically, it's mentioned in mine, or it's bracketed in mine, that the altar is copper. And since that's my favorite metal, it caught my eye. And I thought, blue, we always associate blue with Judaism, but then it calls out purple. Obviously, it's calling out dolphin skin a lot, which surprised me, since I've never heard dolphins mentioned anywhere else. And then crimson, that was surprising. I've never seen anything crimson associated with our traditions. But with regarding to the census and coming to count the firstborn, and the firstborn is always, we're talking about men. And I thought it was curious thinking about that, and thinking about the early traditions of women not being counted. Yet we count our Jewish heritage through the women. And I don't know, it's the contrasting importance of the genders is an interesting point for me.
And it's actually been that notion that you're talking about has been a source of evolution. It wasn't until the times of Roman occupation that someone's identity as being Jewish was traced through the woman, which was an indication of the level of chaos that reigned within society. So
a good thing or bad thing that we were associated with being part of this chaos?
Well, the notion was that when Roman soldiers were running rampant and raping women, you might not always be able to tell who the father of a child was, but you could always tell who the mother was. So the mother was the source of stability, if you will, for identity purposes within that time of chaos. Okay. Jay, would you like to share something?
Rabbi.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, I am a man of 70 plus 4 years, and I don't have enough time left to try to determine exact numbers of people and the calculations. I like the prime numbers though, but I think that it's a fool's task to decide whether actually this many thousands, and did Methuselah live that long, and how long is a day, and all of that. That takes up too much of our precious time in delving into what's there and what's between those lines. These are just words of men who, as you said, there were authors who were human and trying to convey the divine overall the way to us. And I look at it as much more overall spiritual journey, and the impressions, as with the painting, are lie with each person, and the lessons that come out of it are not math lessons, because math is a pretty certain thing. The lessons transcend the realm of the empirical, so to speak, and go into that for which you created this sacred place of study.
Thank you, Jay. You're reminding us of some of the themes that we discussed when Mark Thompson led us through a review of the book As a Driven Leaf, this tension between the extent to which we're searching for meaning in life and the extent to which we're open to the mystery of life. So thank you. And let me ask, Justin, did you have something you'd like to share?
Yes, Rabbi, I was thinking of the organization of the Israelites as being really akin to the inner organization of somebody who faces a disorganizing event, but then rallying all the resources of the psyche to be present in this wonderful way to say, we're all standing for you, that in each person, there's that people of Israel.
Well, that's a lovely way to put it, Justin. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Yes, so you get a cool endorsement from Richard. Okay, that's really nice. And Ruth, would you like to share?
Okay, bueno.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. So I was very captivated and intrigued, Rabbi, when you were discussing the painting and the study sheet, and it strikes me, we go from a very the quantitative nature of numbers and all the listing of the tribes and the leaders and the numbers, etc. And then you're able to go in your study sheet to something much more, something very spiritual and searching. And I don't know quite how that happens, but it struck me, what you were talking about, it sort of hit me. I go, oh, okay, he could be talking about me, about desire, the nameless yearning, the longing. And I go, well, what is that? The existential angst of being a human being. But I thinking, oh, it gave me a little pinpoint of understanding. Well, maybe that's me, like it's very spiritual. It's also private, of course, but also spiritual. Like, oh, maybe that's wanting to be joined with God, to lose yourself. And it's like, what is that? And I guess it sort of struck me like, oh, maybe that's why I'm here. Like, why do I show up? So I can get some of that by listening to everyone and the study sheet. And I don't know how you make that leap, but
so
it worked. I mean,
here's what you got me to think of, Ruth, and this is what I'll wrap it up with, which is, how interesting is it that we're beginning to read this book of Numbers, we open it up and there's all this counting, and as Dave points out, there's these prime numbers and non-prime numbers and perfect numbers and I guess imperfect numbers, and we are coming to the end of the counting of numbers, right? We're counting the Omer.
Right.
We're counting the days between Passover and Shavuot. And so we ask ourselves, why are we doing that? Why are we counting the days? We're counting the days in order to teach us to make our days count.
Okay.
Make our days count. The counting serves a purpose of seeking meaning, not just an iteration or an articulation of some a specific counting, if you will. We do the counting in order to find meaning. We count the days to make the days count. And so this is the journey I want to suggest that the Israelites are going on, is as much an inner journey as it is an outer journey. Because if they get to the land of Canaan, if they haven't become a refined and recreated people, if they haven't done the job of making something new of themselves, then when they get there, everything will collapse. It won't have been worth it. Nothing new will have been started. So this is a journey that they're on that is as much a self-exploration, self-refinement, a creation of a new self in order to live within this new land. With that, I want to thank everyone for coming together. To being on this journey with you is so rich and important for me. I'm so grateful for all of your presence. I count the days with you so that we can make these days count. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you very much.
Be
Thank
well.
you.
Bye-bye.
Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. Have a good week, everyone.
Right,
Shalom.
Rabbi, can I make one comment? Just you were talking about Song of Songs, but
Yes.
the Song of Songs. There's a ballet from 30, 40 years ago. I'm a lifelong dance fan. Well, there was something from many decades ago called the Song of Songs. It is based on the Song of Songs. It's a Netherlands dance theater. Jiri Killian, the choreographer, and I think it's Stravinsky. It's this wonderful modern ballet. And I must have seen it two or three times, but I must have been 30 years ago since I've seen it. And I was thinking about that ballet and what we were talking about. I said, I wonder if I could see the ballet now, I would have a different, more understanding of what the choreographer and the company was trying to convey, in the Song of Songs, in that modern dance to Stravinsky. It was beautiful, but I'm sure I'd get more out of it now. So I just wanted to, think about that and put that out there. Maybe we can look it up.
Well, now you've given me something to learn more about. So I'm so grateful, Ruth. Everyone, be well. See you next week. Take
Okay,
care.
bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.